Welcome to the Aleck Pain to Performance podcast, hosted by Dr. Jake Aleck and Dr. Kyle Richmond. Here we discuss health, fitness, and nutrition-related topics. Dr. Richmond and I are chiropractic physicians based out of Frankfort, Illinois. We treat all things pain. If you move it, we treat it. For more information about the clinic or us, check out AleckPainToPerformance.com. We appreciate your time and attention and hope you enjoy the show.
All right, guys, coming to you today with the topic, habits, and pretty much why habits are more important than motivation. Jake, take it away.
Yeah, motivation, I think, for anybody is the quickest way to light a flame. We can think of all of our ways of motivating yourself, whether that's someone calling you an inappropriate word and you're like, screw them, all right, I'm going to prove them wrong. It could be a song that you listen to and you're like, gosh, this is getting me pumped up. Yeah. It could be a drink that you have, whether it's an energy drink or coffee, something that kind of, it's external that you need in order to kind of get you going.
Right.
And I think that's the number one way. We want to figure out something that we can provide internal, or how I can like ignite my own flame versus being reliant upon something else.
Right. And kind of in that, like, so motivation is almost like that. It's more that short-term thing. Okay, yeah, that song or what that person said, or like some small thing. Okay, yeah, it lasts for a day or two, but habits are really that's the long-term thing. That's the thing you do day in, day out. It lasts weeks, months, years.
Yeah, and it's the same correlation to like investing. If I invest $5 a day, I see no return of it until that kind of aggregately gets higher. Same thing with habits. Like, it typically is not fun and easy to kind of get those going, but then when you get through the mess, when you get through the resistance, and then you're like, you know, someone sees you and you've had the habit of eating well for the last 3 months.
Right.
When that person who hasn't seen you in 3 months sees you, they're like, man, what the heck did you do? And it could be a small change that you made, but you remain consistent with it. Right. And now you have the visual change, or you have the physical change that someone notices on the longer term. Right. So when we say motivation is inferior to habits, or habits are greater than motivation, we'll kind of dive into why or how the best way to make habits a little bit more easy to ingrain into yourself. And one of the fastest ways to do it is whatever you're trying to do. So say I'm trying to work out more. We could try to say, how can I make that habit a lot easier to have happen? Right. So an easy example for me, I work out first thing in the morning. So I always set out my clothes right next to my bathroom. So as soon as I wake up, like, my workout clothes are waiting for me.
Oh, it's there.
And then you have to like literally stare at them to be like, nah, I'm not going to do this. Or it's just like, no, I'm here, let's do it, right? Another way to have that happen, if you're someone that trains after or works out after work, as soon as you get home, like, you put your keys down and put your shoes down. If you see your workout clothes just sitting waiting there, it's going to be a lot easier to have happen than that, because it's looking at you in the head, versus if you got to go in, your wife's at the kitchen table making something, or she's watching TV, and you just like hang out for a little bit, and it's like, that workout, and then you got to, it's a lot easier to not follow through with.
Right. Yeah. Once you sit on that couch, it's game over.
Right.
I'm not getting back up. You got to keep moving. Like, for us, I know big habit we've been doing lately is just nutrition, and we set ourselves up for success with that is by getting rid of all the stuff in the house that we shouldn't be eating. It's a lot harder to eat unhealthy if it's all sitting there. Like, you can go to that freezer and just grab that ice cream out. Okay, if we only have good food there, well, now it becomes a habit because we constantly eat that good food. We've been doing it for weeks on end, months on end. Now that you're not even buying it, okay, easy enough.
Bingo. And you hit on the head of the opposite way of making an easier habit easier. Instead, you did, how can I make my bad habit harder to do?
Exactly.
So if you find out that, snacking on ice cream at nighttime, or, having energy drinks, and you're like, I don't want to be less with having those. Right. How can I make that harder to do on the daily? Well, if I clear my house of all of that bad stuff that I don't want to be having, now I have to actually go to the store, make the decision to buy it, put my money down, go home, have it, and that whole 15 minutes process to be like, all right, I'm going against myself. Like, that's a lot harder to do than just go to the cupboard, grab it, and sit on the couch and have the ice cream. So by clearing out, that makes your the bad habit a lot harder to do. So that's a way to get into creating your good habits. Another way with that is if you're someone that always watches TV as soon as they get home from work instead of working out, James Clear, who is the author of Atomic Habits, he gave this example, is always unplug your TV in your living room. So then every time you go home, you have to make the decision to plug that TV in and then sit down and watch versus it's already on and you're just sitting down and plopping down. Right. So you're making it harder to actually sit down and do the bad habit. Right. If you make it harder, a little bit more resistant, naturally you'll probably do the thing that you want to do versus the easy thing.
Right. All right, so another thing I want to touch on is, okay, so we want to build a new habit. Kind of give me the rundown on what's the easiest way to do that, maybe how long it takes, or just for anyone who wants to build new habits.
Yeah, so I think the timing of it is the most important part, and that is clear cut. There is no certain day. There isn't, oh, you reach the 68 day of doing this, now it's a habit.
Right.
Depending on what it is, it could take you every bit of a year or more. Depending on what it is, it can take you 10 days to instill. Right. So it depends on how far it is away from your normal. Mm-hmm. So that's why you and Olivia at home making it a group environment of changing a nutrition change, right. That makes it a whole lot easier to remain consistent with.
Yes.
So then whether it's a 50-day process, a 100-day process, you guys will be more consistent to get there. Versus a lot of times when we work with people in here, when just one spouse makes the nutrition change and the other person doesn't, it makes it a whole lot harder at home to keep that consistent ball rolling. So that pairs well with how to remain consistent is how can I make my bad habits harder to do, right. And then how can I make these good habits that I'm trying to instill easier to do. Right. And we gave a couple examples of both of those, but if you just think back and just write down, all right, what are my bad habits I'm trying to get rid of? And it can be, let's see, instead of I'm trying to get more steps in. Like I naturally don't get many steps in throughout the day. Mm-hmm. First easy way to do that is how can I encourage myself to walk further throughout the day? So where are things that we go? The grocery store being one. How can I park a little bit further? It's a nice sunny day, you're going to get more steps in. Right. At nighttime, we typically sit on the couch and watch TV. So how can I make that habit a little bit harder to do? And instead, let's go for a walk, at nighttime. So you can kind of sit down and plot those things, but whatever is the easiest way to you to remain consistent and not just go crazy and make a whirlwind change with something, because we see it sometimes too where people are like, all right, I'm going to make my diet change and I'm going to go full keto and not eat a single carb for the next 10 days. Yes. They may do that for 3 days and then by the fourth day feel absolutely miserable and then they stuff their face and then they're right back on track to where they were, if not worse, because they went on this yo-yo effect.
Right.
So
something like talking about steps. Okay, you want to get 10,000 steps. Right now you're at 3,000. Well, instead of that next day trying to get 10, let's shoot for 5 for a couple weeks. Bingo. And then 7, and then 9, and then gradually get in it. And that can be for absolutely anything. Yep.
And it goes back to that investment thing. Getting 1% better each day. Mm-hmm. You don't really see those benefits short term, but in the long term, they're wide and big. So when you stick to that, and same people in here, like whether it's treatment or we're working with them lifestyle wise, nutritionally, sometimes they're surprised by how minimal we change what they need to do.
Right.
But when that gives them a chance to actually stay consistent with what we need them to do, they come back 5-6 days later or 6 weeks later if it's more nutritionally, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is incredible, the change that I've done by just switching something so minor.
Yeah, you'll see that like on day 1 we give them their plan. It's got one exercise or one stretch and they go, that's it. I go, do that every day for the next how many days or weeks. They come back and it's a huge change.
Right, yeah, and it's typically, like we talked about, taking one thing good, we give them that one exercise, and then we'll probably tell them, hey, let's pull back on X and O, and then we're making that bad habit, right, or something that's going to limit their gain a little bit harder to do, and then now that double success is there. Right. So.
And I think something cool too, okay, so we have habits and motivation, but as you build these habits, that almost becomes your motivation, right? You've done this habit for so long, you become motivated by it because of how long you've done it. Mm-hmm. Okay, I haven't had this ice cream or junk food in now 2 months, and that becomes motivation for you to continue going.
Right.
So they're not almost two separate things, but they can almost complement each other.
Yeah, well, and your new normal is something that you wish to instill on yourself way long ago. Mm-hmm. So now it may be a freak day that you do have ice cream, but then the next day, like, you're right back on board.
Right, because it didn't even phase you.
Yeah.
Because now you're the person that doesn't have that ice cream, so you had it one time. Okay, big deal.
Yes.
That's who you identify as.
Yeah, and that I would say when I'm out and about and people see me, like, I'm at Aurelio's and that deep dish cookie dessert comes around and it's like, you know what, I'm going in on it. And then people are like, oh my God, Dr. Alex having cookie dessert. But I'm like, it's in a blue moon situation. Right. I'm going to own it and like enjoy it. But then I'm probably not going to do that again for the next, however long, so whatever you do, and that's what, when we talk about nutritionally here, it's not that don't ever have junk food ever again. It's just make the intention that, we give this example all the time, is instead of having ice cream at the house, make it that one time a week or one every 2 weeks, we're all going to Creamery as a family, getting that one serving ice cream there versus it staring at me in the eyes every time I open up the freezer, and then I have to have the self-motivation to keep it away. That's really hard to do.
I agree.
Really hard to do. So what in the past have you utilized as whether it's in lifestyle or gym-wise or even back in the day in school, did you find anything that you kind of were able to instill habit-wise? Or
I would say habit-wise, when I first started doing the morning routine cars, at first, day one I did it, I was consistent for a little while, fell off for a bit, but I really had to make it, this is the thing. And it was always before I got in the shower that day. I'm just going to get up, do the cars, and then shower. And I knew, I almost paired it with something else. I know it's something that James kind of talks about, but it was always, I had to do this first. And again, it took a while, and sometimes it wasn't always made the first thing of the day, but I just made sure I got it in at some point, and then slowly just made that part of my identity. It was like, I am someone that does this every single morning.
Yeah, nice. And what was the thing that you paired it with?
Literally just before I took a shower.
Oh, so the shower and that, got it.
In order to take a shower, I have to now do my cars, because that's something I do every single morning. I wouldn't go to school without taking a shower, so hopefully. It was a non-negotiable.
Yeah. And I was the same way. I did that with coffee, so that's why I have the whole coffee and cars thing, because it was like, you're sitting there drinking that, maybe on the computer watching TV, it's like you might as well do a little bit of movement with it.
Right.
So, all right, well, we hope this kind of idea of instilling habits that you can remain consistent with, that develop you into the new you, is much more of a long-term investment that you'll have more gain than just using that short-term motivation. And we still suggest using the short-term motivation. Still got my handful of songs or my playlist that I put on when you may not be having that full oomph that day. Utilize that, but instead of using it every day, melding into the person you want to be by being consistent is a much better long-term approach.
Right, you said best. Use it for the days you need it.
Yep.
And for anyone that wants to maybe learn more about this stuff, I would say pick up Atomic Habits, start reading that book, or even just follow
James Clear,
his stuff online. All great stuff.
Yeah, no, his book is definitely something that we tell patients all about. We have a quote in our front lobby area that he has in the book, and it's all about just instilling yourself into a community that has the habits that you want to become. So when you're naturally enriched in those types of people, you become that type of that person. So hope this helps, and we'll see you guys soon.